Well, you can see it's a super foggy morning here. We get these once in a while. It's pretty cool. Chickens are all set. Have some breakfast and head down to the farm. Hey there, down at the farm. The fog cleared as soon as I started heading south. I live, 30 minutes drive north of the farm basically, and I don't know, the fog was just up in that area, but either way, we're definitely in full hat weather now. I definitely need a new hat. Look at this thing, it's struggling. Anyways, continuing with infrastructure projects. Hopefully we can get this done today. Well, we got everything hooked up, and of course we have a leak, so we got to figure that out. But basically, there's a check valve here that goes into the pump, and then there's this threaded nipple that goes between here and the filter, and this thing got stripped out. I don't know why. Check valve's still okay, so I gotta go find this part or something like this to make this work, but otherwise it's all hooked up to the line that runs out to the field and to the other hydrants, and also behind me here to the water tank over here. So gonna try to source this or something that will work. We'll have to go to Lowe's or Home Depot if we have like a bunch of stuff to buy, because we'll save some money. But there's a Ace Hardware that's like a couple-minute walk here, and I had to walk through Peace University here, and there's obviously no students, and it's just weird. There's very few people out. I'm really happy to see that. But anyways, they had the part I was looking for, so let's go install that. See if we can get this thing to stop leaking. All right, well, we got the pump hooked up, and we were just curious how much water was in the big tank, so we went and looked, and there really wasn't much water. So something's wrong here. So I mentioned this in another video about how our system is set up. So this is where the water comes down from the roof, and there's a filter there, and the water goes over into this tank here, and there's a pump down there. And when this tank is satisfied, there is an overflow here that runs out this way out to our rain garden. I also don't think this pump's working because there's not enough water in the big tanks, and also if this pump was running, there'd be less water in here. So we're gonna pull this pump out and see what's going on. One thing I want to mention is the pump is unplugged, and I also checked we do have power here, so yeah, the pump's not working. We gotta get here and pull it out. So we pulled the pump out, and I just flipped it upside down, and I heard the pump kick on. So we're gonna test in a bucket of water just to make sure it's working before we drop it in. We're gonna try to limit all the variables here. So we got it in a bucket of water, and then I can also turn this back on too, Gene, so we turn this on. So we keep water in the bucket. All right, here we go. Let's test this thing. All right, I'd say the pump works. Yep. All right, cool. That's a good sign, actually. The pump works. So I'm gonna drop back in, see if we can pump some of this water up to the tank. All right, so we dropped the pump in the hole and plugged it in, and it started wearing up, so we're good. There is a valve here, so we're gonna turn this valve on to try to send water up to the tanks. We'll also have a city water garden hose in here just to add some little bit of water, just to let it run a little bit longer. But we also have a city water fill over there, so it doesn't really matter. We're getting there somehow. So I'm gonna turn this on, and I'm gonna go check and see if the water's going in over there. Well, I went up on top of the tank to make sure, and I could barely see it was coming up because there's such a large surface area there, especially between the two tanks. But what you can see here, hopefully, is that the water level is definitely dropping even with the hose running. So this pump does push quite a bit of water. So this pump is definitely working now. We at least eliminated that problem. I think we should be okay. I also readjusted the float valve in the big tank. So hopefully it was down pretty low. So hopefully between all this stuff, we'll just have to check it after a big rain, make sure the tank is filling up. All right, success. This pumped down all the way until, it's kind of hard to see this picture here, but pumped down all the way until the pump shut off. So the float valve in the pump is working properly. So everything seems to be working okay in terms of the system. So really happy to see that this tank right here is basically empty. All right, I'm trying to get everything in the shot here so I can explain what's going on in one shot. So we got the pump hooked up. It's actually not that loud. I'm pretty surprised. Basically, the output of the pump comes out here and it splits. So this T going this way goes out to the field, which you guys saw when we installed that main line. This goes over to the hydrant here, and there's a hydrant down over there too, so that's where the old system. Now on the input side, this is the water coming from the tank, and there's a ball valve here, and it's leaking, of course. We also put a union in here so we can disconnect everything easily. So the problem is with that ball valve is that there's no way to isolate that ball valve from the tank. So what we're gonna do is we can isolate between the two tanks. So we close off the back tank and we're gonna pump the bottom of this tank out. There's some water in there, but what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pump it out into the field. And at least we're watering our cover crop, and so we can drain the water low enough, hopefully, that we can swap out that ball valve. So that's the goal right now. We're gonna let that run. Hopefully that'll empty out before we're done for the day. And yeah, we're just gonna have to get the water out. There's no other way to swap out that valve the way the system was installed. Let me talk about how the floats and stuff work on the tanks. All right, so as we're pumping out this tank, let me explain how this works. I did kind of mention it before, but now I actually really understand it a lot better too, which is cool. So the water collects on the roof of the building that's next door to us, and it gets captured through water pipes that go into that sump system that you guys saw us pulling the pump out of. So when this water level drops, as we use this water, there's a float valve in here, and that's what this electrical cord is here. And this float valve, so when the water level drops, this will turn on the outlet that that pump down there is plugged into. So when the water level drops, it calls for water, that pump turns on. If that sump gets empty, there's a float valve inside that pump that'll turn that pump off, so it'll keep it from running dry. So as long as this tank needs water, it'll keep pumping as much as it can. So when it rains, obviously it'll put water into that sump, and that pump will kick on, and then if this tank is then full and satisfied, it'll stop pumping over there. So that pump there kind of acts as a buffer. So that's how the tank gets full automatically. Now, what happens when you're using all the water and it doesn't rain? So it has another cool system in here. And this is city water that's coming in, and attached to this on the inside is just a mechanical float valve on a string. And basically if the level drops below a certain point, it's probably around here or so, I don't remember exactly, it's hard to judge when you're up there, but I did go up there and check it out. When the water level drops below here, it'll kick back onto this level. So it's not going to fill the whole tank with city water, that would be silly, but you want to make sure there's enough in here so that you continually can run your system. Because if it doesn't rain and you're irrigating all the time and you run out of water, you have to then have some sort of switch over system where you'd have to, like, you know, hook up your pump to the city water. But this way it's all mixed in, and also you get the same flow rates and everything like that because you're just pumping water out of here. So even if we're irrigating for a while and it's not raining, we still have water and we still get the same flow rates, and it'll just top off continuously to that lower level, and it'll leave plenty of space so for when it rains, you'll have room to fill that up. Anyways, hope that makes sense. I'm gonna pump out the water and hopefully get that valve swapped out, probably tomorrow, I guess, but we'll see if we can get it pumped out today. We got the tank drained out. In fact, we actually pumped some of the water into the sump so we wouldn't waste it. So when we kick the system back on, we can pump it back into the tank. But we did put some water on the field, which it needed anyways, it hasn't been raining that much. So yeah, there's no shut off to isolate this valve, so this is the only way to replace this is to cut this out after we drain the tank. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna swap this out, got a new valve, put it in. All right, got that done. So let it dry and open stuff back up, make sure everything's cool. Another one of the products we had to get done this week was the drying screen, and it's pretty much done. And so is pretty much most of the wash station at this point. So let me talk about this for a second. We were working on it before, but we pretty much finished it today. So if you've seen the wash station on my channel, I'll put a link up here if you want to see how I had it set up at my place. We have the greens bubbler, the spinner, and then the drying screen. And the way this works is we're gonna have 3 box fans on the top, we hook them together, and then what this does, we put the greens on here, and this just gets that last little bit of water off, and it makes the world of difference in terms of storage. It's just really, like, it gives it so much more time that it stays good in people's fridge. So it makes a big difference to get that last little bit of water off after you wash it. So the way this works is the greens go out, and then they dry them, and you can fluff them up, and then we're gonna actually, like, have a table here so they can directly pack right off the screen. And then when you're done, or if you're, you know, sort of switching between crops, you can just tilt it up and smack the bottom, all the greens fall off, and you're good to go. So this was a really important thing that we had, and I'm really excited to have a much wider one. For me, with the bubbler and the spinner that I had, this was the bottleneck for sure, so this will give us a lot more throughput. Pretty excited about this. Other than that, the wash station is basically ready to go. We have water, we got drainage. We'll get the table set up in here. I just gotta buy one more fan, and we'll probably have to, I don't know, it is freestanding, so we'll probably fix it to the wall or the floor or something, but you know, once we get it in the right spot, we'll know. All right, got everything hooked up. I don't see anything leaking for now, so that's cool. Basically the system is operational. We just gotta keep an eye on it for when it rains, and make sure that, you know, the tank's filling up with water and everything's working. But the city water float's working, and the pump runs because we push water out to the field and everything. Should be good. We're gonna have to build an enclosure for this and then insulate it for the winter, all that kind of stuff. But for now, we got the big stuff covered. A lot of little stuff got wrapped up today, and I feel really good about it. And yeah, anyways, another big day. Lots of stuff we did, and you know, starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. See you tomorrow. All right, so we dropped the So as it rains, if that fills up with water, thumbnail, yeah, and squeaky, and then maybe I should redo that part. Okay, let's redo that.